Islam Makhachev, the Ultimate Fighting Championship UFC lightweight champion, faces a difficult first title defense. Khabib Nurmagomedov believes Alexander Volkanovski is a tougher opponent than Charles Oliveira, but that won't matter much against Islam Makhachev. Why is this the case? Does Alexander appear to be a formidable opponent? Can our icon McGregor rewrite history with his take on Khabib? Stay tuned for more information on this topic. To begin, let's look at an overview of the subject. Alexander Volkanovski presents Khabib Nurmagomedov and the rest of Islam Makhachev's team with another challenge. Makhachev won the lightweight championship of the Ultimate Fighting Championship (UFC) by claiming victory over Charles Oliveira at UFC 280 a month ago. In round 1, he finished Oliveira with a submission, capping off an impressive run in the division. Makhachev and Volkanovski will now square off in a champion versus champion super fight at UFC 284, which will take place in Perth, Australia. This is the most recent matchup of a champion against another champion in the history of the UFC, and it's the first of its kind since Israel Adesanya fought Jan Blachowicz at UFC 259. During the time that Nurmagomedov was champion of the lightweight division of the UFC, he defended his title against several formidable opponents, including Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. Even though he no longer competes in bouts, he has continued to follow the sport and speculate about who Makhachev might fight. Although it was difficult for Makhachev to earn the vacant title on his own, Nurmagomedov believes that the most difficult test is still to come. Moving on, Khabib explains why Alexander Volkanovski is a tougher test for Islam Makhachev. During a recent one-on-one interview, Nurmagomedov compared Makhachev's bouts with Volkanovski and Oliveira. Even before the most recent battle, I explained to Islam, "I think Volkanovski is going to be a more challenging opponent than Charles Oliveira," said Nurmagomedov. He possesses a lot of valuable experience. Both Charles and Volkanovski go through the same thing. On the other hand, if we are talking about fighting IQ and having a big heart, I believe Volkanovski is superior to him. I think Islam will have a more difficult time winning against Volkanovski than they did with Charles Oliveira. However, who would care? This individual is going to meet his end at our hands. Following the most recent defense of his featherweight title against Max Holloway and the Korean Zombie, Volkanovski has established himself as the best fighter in the UFC when ranked according to their respective weight classes. The fight against Makhachev, currently ranked second in the pound-for-pound standings, will determine whether or not he retains his position. Despite his admiration for Volkanovski's achievements, Makhachev has made fun of the featherweight champion's diminutive stature. Compared to Volkanovski, who is 5 feet and 6 inches tall, he will have a sizable advantage in height. A significant amount of excitement is generated for the UFC 284 card that will take place in February, and Nurmagomedov's admission suggests that Makhachev and Volkanovski will engage in a fight that could be very competitive. Following that, Conor McGregor attempts to rewrite history with unique take on Khabib defeat. Conor McGregor has claimed that the famous photo of himself slumped against the cage after his loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov in 2018 was taken while he was chilling.
There's the choke. There's the tap! Khabib Nurmagomedov!
When he faced the Russian for the lightweight title at UFC 229, the legendary former two-weight world champion returned to the octagon for the first time after becoming lightweight champion and boxing Floyd Mayweather. The pair had a bitter feud, with the Irishman spending a night in jail for an attack on his rival's bus. Their fight was the most important in MMA history, but it wasn't particularly competitive in the cage, with Nurmagomedov knocking the Irishman to the ground and landing big shots in the first and second rounds before losing the third. McGregor could not resist his opponent's advances in the fourth round and eventually submitted to a neck crank in the championship rounds. However, during a lengthy tirade on Twitter yesterday, the former champion claimed that in a picture of Nurmagomedov celebrating his victory, he was a lion chilling. The Irishman also called his opponent a rat gnawing and threatened to batter the entire family before backtracking in a later message. "The Lion King chills," McGregor wrote after UFC 229, alongside a photo of Nurmagomedov standing over him, unscathed. "They won't do anything. If I get up, I'm going to batter the entire family. The lot on top of the cage, that's a lion lounging there, and a rat gnawing." Next up, what does McGregor have to add on Khabib defeat? In a now-deleted tweet, the Irishman shortly after wrote, "Actually, you know what? I don't want to fight the smell bag. There are way better fights out there, but let it be known the biggest wet the bed in fighting history is what this guy is. Think of the magnitude this fight would have. Absolute bottler you are. Father going to slap you 100%. McGregor went on a Twitter rant yesterday, apparently after rewatching his fight with Nurmagomedov and noting Joe Rogan's commentary, which indicated he was being badly beaten. He made a joke about Rogan calling his second-round knee violating MMA rules against striking a grounded opponent, which was illegal. He dubbed the one-of-a-kind attack the Springbok knee and believes it should be legal if successfully executed. He was on his back, being held down by Nurmagomedov, and landed the knee from an awkward angle. But the Russian is technically a grounded opponent because he was on the ground. I refer to this knee strike as the Springbok. Do you remember Reebok? Well, this is Springbok, McGregor said. Have you ever seen a Springbok leap? Just look at that knee Springbok into his eye socket. Haha, I'm the all-time master of unseen shots. That is without a doubt. May God bless the departed. Later, he posted a photo of a springbok leaping from the ground, captioned, "This is a springbok. I'm just after making them." Yes, springboks are now manufactured. Moving on, Paddy Pimblett accepts Jake Paul's sparring offer. "I'm game." Pimblett was asked to respond to Paul's sparring offer in a recent interview with TMZ Sports. Of course, Pimblett responded, "I have a contract with the UFC." He said this knowing that I'll be fighting the following week. "Next week, visit the PI. I'll spar with you for $1 million in a bag. On Thursday, I'll be in Las Vegas. Even though I'm low on calories and around 170 pounds, he still prefers smaller people. I'm willing. Don't worry, he can come to the PI and we'll get into the cage." The question then turned to whether Pimblett would fight Paul in MMA or boxing. "I'll package him. I don't think he's a bad boxer. In fact, I think he's a decent boxer," Pimblett clarified. "In the last 2 years, he's done nothing but the box. I believe he defeats Tommy Fury, but I am confident he would not beat me. I'm sure he wouldn't. Anderson Silva just sat down for him, I believe." Pimblett, best known for his grappling, has shown off some impressive striking since joining the UFC. Last year, he started his octagon career by knocking out Luigi Vendramini with a barrage of punches.
Look at the speed and the ferocity when he lets the hands go. And Luigi here trying to hang on for dear life and wait for it.
Following his victory over Silva, Paul awaits his next opponent, the recently released Nate Diaz. He's unbeaten in boxing, with 4 knockout victories. If Paul agrees to travel to Las Vegas this week, a high-stakes sparring match between Pimblett and Paul could be on the cards. Following that, Alex Pereira sets timeline for potential Israel Adesanya rematch. After Alex Pereira's victory over Israel Adesanya at UFC 281, which took place earlier this month, there has been an expectation that the two competitors will compete against each other once again. Of course, Khamzat Chimaev has something to say about that. However, the odds continue to be high that the next time Pereira steps into the octagon, he will face the familiar opposition of Adesanya. This is the case, although Khamzat Chimaev has something to say. This week on an episode of the MMA Hour, Pereira discussed the potential timing of the rematch and provided a timeline for when it could take place. The newly crowned champion has stated he would prefer the potential rematch to occur between May and July if it were to occur. This means there is a window of opportunity of 6 to 8 months between now and when that fight could occur. Since Israel Adesanya is not known for his patience, it will be interesting to see if he decides to re-examine the waters of the light heavyweight division to keep himself busy in the interim. Finally, Conor McGregor/USADA update. On the Conor McGregor/USADA front, there was another update over the weekend. McGregor had previously stated that he would be granted an exemption to the 6-month USADA window and would be ready to compete after being tested in February. USADA would then effectively end that with the following statement, which reveals that McGregor is unlikely to be granted such an exemption. "McGregor is not enrolled in our testing pool and would be required to be for 6 months unless an exemption is granted, which we do not believe would be applicable." USADA Director of Communications Avery Walker told ESPN, if McGregor were tested in February, he would be eligible to compete in August. What are your thoughts on our video? Do you believe Alexander is a tougher rival? Please let us know on the comment section. Well, that marks the end of our video for today. We hope you enjoyed it. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.